A good way to look at laws and regulations in Qatar relating to fintech is to look at those laws that directly relate to fintech activities, those that indirectly affect those activities, and then those policies and regulations that promote or enable fintech activity. The QFC has introduced a professional services category for fintech activities, and this has allowed fintech firms to come into the platform, register, and operate in a business-to-business environment. With respect to indirect regulations, you have things like the data protection law, cybersecurity law, and a lot of other initiatives, the national AI strategy and the national cybersecurity strategy, which really create a welcoming context and passive regulatory infrastructure here in Qatar. The enabling regulations really need to complement the ecosystem that's kind of organically evolved here in Qatar.
When we talk about RegTech, we're talking about regulatory technology, and it's really the idea of using technology for compliance purposes, for regulatory monitoring, for design of entire systems. So we can think of it from the standpoint of the financial industry, building IT systems to help them comply with regulatory systems. We can think of it from the standpoint of regulators, building systems to allow digital filing of documentation, or systems to support KYC, know your customer, anti-money laundering checks, or going to Andrew's point about enabling frameworks, it's also about designing infrastructure for financial systems. And all together, when we think about RegTech, it's really about making financial systems function better from both an efficiency standpoint as well as regulatory objectives through the use of technology. And internationally, I think this is one of the most important trends we're seeing over the coming decade. How can regulators better use technology themselves to reduce the costs of financial industry compliance with regulation, but also produce better regulatory outcomes in terms of their own objectives?
They're prioritizing areas that they think that Qatar requires and needs and will flourish in Qatar. And one example is payment services. And that's probably phase one of where the regulators will be focusing on introducing new regulations. Looking at other jurisdictions and adopting their approach wholesale is probably not entirely advisable here in Qatar. There are certainly unique characteristics to the Qatari market and the Qatari context. So perhaps looking at more advanced jurisdictions and picking and choosing those policies and approaches that have worked there and adapting them to Qatari needs is, I think, probably what is advisable for local regulators.
Altogether, it gives you a very comprehensive picture of what's happening in the industry around the world. And I think the key points are that we've had lots of developments in core areas like transaction reporting or prudential regulatory reporting or AML KYC compliance. But we're beginning to see some very exciting trends in other areas, particularly regulators' own use, the development of AI systems or the development of private cloud systems for collecting and using data. And finally, looking forward, we're beginning to see that RegTech is not just about the financial sector. RegTech can be used really in any regulated industry to produce better outcomes with better efficiency. And increasingly what we're seeing is the technology is not the constraining factor. It's how can we best go about thinking how to use that technology to build a better financial system to support stronger, more inclusive societies going forward.